We have only 35 chambers. There is no 36.
I know that. But I want to create a new chamber.
And what would that be?
I think Shaolin techniques should be available to all. So then, that's my idea for a new chamber. To teach the martial arts to the people. Anybody.
Okay, welcome back to the next episode of My 3 Cents. Now, I want to say something first. With one of the previous episodes, I said I was doing these larger, more in-depth explanations of certain topics. And I actually did record the next part of that after the coronavirus episode. But my energy was so turned up that things kept happening to where I had to re-record. And what it ended up being was like a message, like a sign that told me I need to switch up the format. I need to change something. So instead of trying to repeat the same thing, what I decided was to, or at least what I was shown as an option and what I chose, was to record episodes now with very specific topics, right? So this episode will be one specific topic. And I'm going to do that to simplify for the listeners, because I know a lot of people are trying to go back and find different sections of different conversations. So what I'm going to do is keep it kind of topic specific on the episodes. That way it'll be easier to find the information that you're looking for, right? So that being said, I just wanted to get that out the way and let you know why this is not going to be one of the very long, in-depth discussions that includes a lot of different topics showing the relationships. This is going to be different. So this episode here is a highly requested episode. People actually been waiting on this topic because I'm really going to go in on it. So without further ado, this is the Melanin episode. Melanin. The most mysterious substance on the planet. Maybe in the universe. Melanin. So where do we start with melanin? I know everybody's like, okay, melanin, I don't see what the big deal is. Some people have it, some people don't. Some people say, well, everybody has melanin. That's correct as well, right? Because there are multiple forms of melanin. And I'm going to get into how that can occur with melanin. Why is melanin so special? So let's jump this off, man. I dug through my notes. I found all the melanin things that I've written down over the years. I've collected them. And I got a few good parts here all in one place, man. So here we go. Down that melanin road, right? Because when you get done with this, you got to understand, there's a lot of energy that goes into this, man. I got to be prepared mentally, spiritually, and physically. I can't waste my energy all day and then try to record an episode that's really delivering some heat and some knowledge. You see what I'm saying? Like, this is a process. So when I come on here to try to drop this information, you're getting a part of me that I saved for you. Right? You're getting a part of me that is specifically set aside to give to you. So I just hope y'all appreciate it. Appreciate the research and whatnot. And these are just a lot of my thoughts. And I always want to know what y'all think. Please start sending more voicemails. I'm going to put my email in the description on every episode from here on out. I want to make sure y'all can contact me if you're trying to. All right? So, melanin. The mysterious substance that is connected to what's called the pineal gland. Now, if you don't know much about the pineal gland, I will do a separate episode on that. But for now, let's just know that it is a part of the brain that actually sits in the center of the brain, the pineal gland. Some people call it the pineal gland. It can also be referred to as the pineal gland, right? Because it is also attached to your genital area as well, right? Your genital glands. So I'll be going in on that another time though. I don't want to jump in on that. So let's keep it melanin. So the pineal gland is the only thing in the body that is not mirrored with two sides. Everything else is pretty much dualistic the way that the body is created, right? The pineal gland is the one thing that is not. Now, there is something that people talk about called the third eye. Now, if you're not familiar with this, if you're a Christian and you're very into religion and stuff like that, then that means you have never done any kind of research on this. Trust me, I know. I used to be there. So don't be too spooked by the third eye and hearing things like that, because a lot of it is mysterious because it is occult. And when you hear the word occult, you can't be triggered, man. You got to realize occult just means hidden, right? Hidden knowledge. It's going to be a type of information that only some people are going to have the full explanation of. Everybody else will just be triggered by it, right? So that is how common people refer to that type of knowledge. They are triggered rather than finding out and figuring out that they actually understand what that is. So when we're talking about the third eye, the all-seeing eye, they also refer to it as, it's also on the back of your money. So even for the Christians and the different religious people out there, if you use cash money, but you have not looked into the things that you are transferring energy with as energy tools, that's kind of not intelligent as well, right? You should at least understand, okay, let me find out why these symbols are at least on something that I'm always touching, at least, right? You should at least be that curious. So, as far as the third eye, those that are deeper into knowledge studies will refer to it as the first eye, because it is the eye you saw through before your actual eye, your physical eyes even worked. Okay. Why is the pineal gland called the third eye? Why is it referenced to the middle of the forehead? Because the pineal gland, as it sits in the middle of the brain, a straight direct line forward would put it between your eyebrows. Why is this important? Because the pineal gland is made of the same tissues that the retina and the eyeball is also made from. So that is one very mysterious thing about it that causes it to be referenced as an eye, right? The inner eye, okay? Even in the Bible where it says, well, two eyes become one, right? And it talks about the light. This is all reference to the pineal gland. So the pineal gland is responsible for the production of a lot of special things in the body, like DMT, melanin, serotonin, melatonin. There's a lot of different things that the pineal gland is responsible for, chemically, spiritually, physically, all the way around, right? So they also refer to this as the seat of the soul when they talk about the human body. That's the pineal gland they're talking about. It's shaped like a pine cone. That's why it's pine cone, right? The pineapple. A lot of these things are also reference to the pineal gland. They were not named that because for any other reason besides what it is related to etymologically. See? So that's why it's important to understand etymology, and you will see that things that are named certain things come from the same energy, the same source. Let's see. So melanin, which is created from the pineal gland, I know a lot of y'all have heard of serotonin, right? A lot of people have heard of serotonin. Now, serotonin, you probably say, yeah, that's a pill or a vitamin. I heard it helps you wake up in the morning. You take it, it perks you up. All right. So you got to understand first that serotonin is a synthetic form of melanin. Yes. Serotonin is a synthetic form of melanin, right? Sirius, right? These are from the same root places. This is what will straighten you up and get you ready for your day. Now, melanin, this serotonin in the melanin form, or this melanin in the serotonin chemical form, is created through the pineal gland. Why is it also in a pill form? Because those that do not have access to the pineal gland cannot access these certain types of things the way they want to. So they have to make a chemical version and put them in the pill form. What I'm showing you today and what I plan on giving you by the time you're done with this is the knowledge and understanding that everything is about melanin. Whether it's medicine or whatever you want to talk about in existence in this whole thing that we're all doing, it is about melanin at the root. At its core, it's about melanin. And you'll understand that more when I'm done with this episode. So, melanin as serotonin gives you that daytime energy. So they take it in the pill form, right? Because they don't have access to the pineal gland, because their pineal glands are mostly calcified. Who am I talking about? Normally I'm talking about the European, because it is the only body type that is almost opposite to ours in the form of genetics, right? So it is the best example, because here we have two creatures that exist on the same plane, but genetically, one seems to be a genetically, I don't want to say like deficient, but has certain deficiencies that the other does not have. And it makes for a different type of creature all the way around, all the way to attitude and, personality, the personality range. So it's very interesting that it goes from physical all the way to the unseen when we're talking about the effects of having or not having melanin. Okay? Melatonin in the nighttime, when it is released, it is called melanin in the nighttime when it's released is called melatonin. Right? You can remember that because melatonin, mellow, right? This is what relaxes you. You'll hear a lot of Caucasians or Europeans say, I haven't had a good night's sleep in, however many nights, right? I never in my life have really heard anybody melanated say that. We can always sleep. We get sleepy quick. Something go wrong, we get sleepy instantly, don't we? soon as you done lost your money for the day or something had happened, we get real sleepy. So we never had a problem laying it down. That's always been something that we could turn to, right? So we gotta understand that we can't take these little things for granted, man, because some people can't even lay it down when they want to. They gotta go and find some melatonin pills. So don't get caught up taking the stuff that they're putting out, because that's not for you. Don't you know taking that kind of stuff, if you're melanated, will decrease the level that you create within your own brain? Your own brain chemical will slow down on its production, because you're taking something in the pill form that chemically is mimicking what you're supposed to naturally be doing. You see? Don't fall for that. I always said the commercials should be very specific, and at least put in the corner or something who they're targeting. Because if I'm watching a sunblock commercial, I know that's not for me. You see? So it's a lot of things we won't address because it comes off what they call racist, but in actuality, it's not racist unless you start thinking that way. If we're just talking about what is, then we can get to the bottom of more things, right? We don't have to be in those mysterious taboo places with our thoughts and conversations, trying not to step on people's toes, but we still trying to figure each other out, and especially each other's cultures, that, the things that we don't understand, that we only know as stereotypes. So when I study stuff like this and I run into information that relates to cultures or separates them, I just bring it up because it's interesting, right? I'm not saying one culture is better than the other or anything like that. I just think it's real interesting information, no matter what side of the fence, the proverbial fence that you're on. It doesn't matter, okay? This is just good information. So we got the melatonin that is released naturally in the melanated man at night, mostly around midnight. That is when the highest production of melanin is occurring in the brain and dispersing in the body and all the places that the melanin needs to go. So you need to be sleeping by midnight, bro. Like everybody that has the melanin, and a lot of people that don't have necessarily brown skin still possess certain type of melanin. So don't think it's just about color. It's not. Because there are people that let's say Europeans or Caucasians that have the dark brown eyes and the different color eyes, and the dark brown hair, and sometimes the black hair, which is also a sign to show you the level of melanin and how close they are on the gene pool as far as melanin goes to us. Right? Because all that matters. So I'll give you some other examples of why that matters later. So let's keep going. It's a lot of information to cover, so you're probably going to have to listen to this twice, because I don't want to keep slowing down and digging too much into it. So when you study the melanin, the melatonin, the serotonin, you understand these are all genetic forms of the melanin. So is things like Viagra and different products like that. Those are also genetic forms, synthetic forms of melanin. Yes, melanin. You see, because the European, he kind of reaches his sexual peak earlier than the melanated man. And the reason for this is because they have a calcified pineal gland. So at a young age, they start to already regress in that area. There's no fault of their own. It's just their genetics. If they had a choice, I'm sure they would choose whatever upgrades or whatever they wanted. But what I'm saying is the way it is now is because of genetics. So moving forward, we know that the melanin can be put in many forms. Remember that, right? So it's also said that the man with melanin is the only actual human that exists. Now, when you look up human, it will give you a lot of definition and show you that the human is not the Neanderthal. The Neanderthal is not the human. They let you know that. So, I mean, you can look that up anywhere. And it's very interesting because that means that those with the Neanderthal traits and genes are actually not technically considered human. Because you got to understand where these words come from. Right? You got to understand where these words come from. So the melanated man is considered the human, or the HU. They used to have a god named Hu back in the day, and that was our ancestors. Back on the African continent, whether it was in Kemet or, Africa at the time, there was a god named Hu that was supposedly, the one that created man, right? Then you also have Hu, the human, Hue, right? The man of multicolor, the man of many colors, the man of color, right? Concentrated color, melanin, the concentrated color man. We have to also understand that man, before its definition of what you think it is, which is actually Master Able Noble, which is what man, or that word stands for. It's really not a word. It's really a what do you call it? Not an anagram, but you get what I'm saying. It stands for something. The MAN, Master Able Noble, right? I'm not gonna give you no more of that, but that's what that terminology actually stands for, which represents spirit, thinker, being. Right? So this is when you get into the man being created with the three, or the Trinity, right? Which all religions and everybody acknowledges the Trinity. We all reference them differently, but we all acknowledge the big three, right? So this is even why you'll have stuff called the big three. It will succeed because it's using a high energy based upon where that terminology comes from, right? So the human, or the concentrated color man, the man, which is the spirit, thinker, being. So then the human, or the man, which is the being, will become the melanin, or the black being, right? The human, the black being, the colored being. So anyone without melanin is not considered a human being, but is commonly referred to as mankind, or a kind of man. Right? So this is what the European, or the white man, was referred to as before. He was referred to as mankind, which is to say a kind of man. So let's talk about the existence on the planet real quick, because this does have to do with melanin as well. We're talking about the sun, how they call melanated people the children of the sun. They call non-melanated people the children of the moon, right? So we already understand that the sun is vitamin rich. It gives you vitamin D and many other things that are pertinent to growth and power, right? This is information coming down in ultraviolet rays, which is just electricity and magnetism, bringing information and constant communication to everything it touches. This is the source. This is the collective soul. This is the thing that has a ray touching the top of all of our heads when we leave the house, all at the same time. This is the connection, right? So we got to understand that when we can shrink things down and go into the microcosm of it, we can understand that the body of earth, if we shrink it down to the body of man, we can understand that in this form, the European would be the white blood cells, and it is always the same thing, right? Because it is the thing that brings the virus. And I hate to put it that way, but we have to understand that on many levels, we are seeing the same thing. If you don't understand it on one level, go down to another level or go up to a larger scale level. However you recognize it, but we all show over and over. Where is our larger scale? The actual universe. I'll get to that though. But the melanin larger scale is the universe. It is that black that you see when you look up at night, right? So when we're talking about the sun and what it does, melanin people have more vitamins and minerals in the body than any other race. Now we're just talking about the genetic makeup of each type of person, right? So melanin people, we understand that the sun is vitamin rich, and we also understand that the melanated man has more vitamins and minerals than any other type of person of any type of race, what they call race. So when we go to the hospitals, once again, I remind you that we got to understand that the healing is pertaining to the white individuals or the European individuals. All the healing is pertaining to their body types, their blood types. And when we're talking about blood pressure, when we're talking about reaction to different types of medications, we're talking about two different things, but they are not going to take the time to break that down for you. You are expected to have knowledge of self when you're dealing in certain systems. You got to understand that. If you don't believe that, then why is it they will also tell you, okay, well, black people have heart attacks at this rate. White people have heart attacks at this rate. They don't have a problem telling you certain stats like that, right? After the fact that it's already in a good groove of happening. But we also have to catch those hints and understand, well, what is the difference? We have to ask the right questions. What's the difference? Why do some and then others don't? And it'll bust down to what our ancestors did before us. And they say, okay, well, if what our ancestors did before us still affects us to this day, then you got to understand that the ancestors are within you. They are what makes up your DNA. They are what makes up your genetics. They are what makes up the crystals that's in your blood. That is your ancestors. So while you high and mighty and full of yourself and think that you are this thing making all these decisions for yourself, what you will and won't look into and what is righteous and what is not, just realize that you're not in this alone, because you're with your ancestors and they're with you as we speak right now, as we exist in this moment now. That's the reason that you even came into this information, because your ancestors want you to catch it. They was into it too. Nothing is by accident and everything is by design, right? So when we go to the hospital, just keep that in mind. Have knowledge of self so you know when you get certain reports how to alter the numbers so it directly relates to you and your genetics. If you already understood that melanated people have a naturally higher blood pressure than non-melanated people, then you're not going to be alarmed when they say your blood pressure is high, because you understand what chart they are comparing it to, right? So then you say, okay, I'm right where I'm supposed to be if I'm slightly high on their chart. See? You see how that works? But if you're low on one of their charts, then you're extremely low for your chart, because our low is still almost high on their chart. You see what I'm saying? So we got to understand the knowledge of self and the body that you're in. Just get the genetics and dynamics of it so that you can map it the best you can. And now you can, use that to your advantage, because it is a disadvantage when you don't know yourself. You are at a disadvantage. All right, moving forward. Even things like the body, different functions, even like earwax, and how the ear, when it creates the wax and starts to push it outward so that you can, clean it, the excess, and leave some on the inside how it's actually supposed to be anyway, which is why the body creates it in the first place, right? It's supposed to be in there. That's not supposed to be extremely clean. That's supposed to have some wax in it. That is what the body produces it for. It is not an accident that the body is doing that, right? So don't perceive it as just filth, because a small amount should be inside your ear, even if it's a very small amount. It should not be you should not be obsessed with trying to get your ear all the way cleaned out, is what I'm trying to say. So, also, things with the earwax among different cultures, when you even look at something like that, there are different moisture levels depending on the cultures and how close they are in genetics. Melanated people have the most moisture, let's say, in their earwax. And so a European person will have more of a crumbly, drier earwax. These are things that most people won't notice, but I'm just giving you examples of, these cultural differences. What makes up a culture? Why do we have something called culture if we can't talk about the differences? Because apparently the differences have already divided us. We're already different cultures, correct? So I'm not drawing any lines. I'm just going behind the lines and kind of laying it down and putting it all out there. And saying, okay, well, what do we think of it when we have the information right here in front of us? So these are things you can look up and just look into and just see what comes to your mind. So on the human scale, because there is something called a human scale, you can look this up. The types of human are actually rated, okay? And it has a lot of different things that play into the rating. Durability, all kind of stuff. So on the human scale, melanated people rate the highest on the human scale, which as to say, they're saying that we actually handle life as a whole better. The ups, the downs, everything that's going on, they're saying that we actually persevere better than any other species. They had to go through something, right? Not just surviving. So it was very interesting. I thought I would include that because it was just an interesting fact that they say we handle life better, especially with how we are perceived and how we're treated as a whole. These are things that can't be denied and need to be kind of brought up. So even the babies, when you think about it, the melanated babies, they're saying in the different cultures, what they're starting to really notice is that the melanated babies are developing a bit faster as far as talking, walking, balancing themselves and things like that. And it's very interesting because when you think about it, it's like, yeah, that is kind of true, but who sits around comparing babies? So again, without reading things that contain the data, we wouldn't really too much think of these things, right? So I started thinking about the melanin and saying that, the way we value each other now is kind of crazy because we value each other so monetarily, right? Everything we do for each other, we need to get paid and different things like that, right? We pay for labor. And you could even ask yourself, is that a corrected form of slavery, like paying for labor? You volunteering to go to work for pay because I gave you a bunch of reasons to think that you need to go to work, right? So this is a way to kind of trick you into a volunteer form of slavery. Because if you've learned nothing else with this thing that's going on, what happens when we're all not going to work? They end up giving us money. I just want you to think about that. When we all don't go to work, they end up sending us money. Because they cannot let everything they have built fail behind this here. And they want to make it seem like we're all eager to get back to work, because we're just that prideful about work. And with all the talk about work, I said, wait a minute, who do we all work for? And what are we all working for? And just right then it came to me, we power the system. It's very simple. We work to power the system. Some people will say, I work to feed my family. No, you don't. Nature does. That's what nature does. You see? That's the give and take and the balance of nature. It gives for we can take and survive and live. And it has seed to replant and relive. It's a whole thing that's reciprocal in relationship. But as far as us working these jobs, these meaningless jobs to feed our families, man, this is something we must have fell for a long time ago. And now we so caught up, we think this is what we're supposed to be doing. But it sure is funny that when everybody's out of work, they start to send us money to do what? Stimulate the economy. I don't want to go too much off Melanin, but, this is all kind of related. So, because I'm talking about value right now. I'm talking about self-value. I'm talking about melanated people. I'm talking about people knowing their value. Right? So it's funny how we do that. And it's like different pay rates for different people. This all seems kind of odd. So this whole system of value and self-value. So even with melanin, when we talking about something like melanin that is actually alien to the planet, did you know there was nowhere to find melanin? Melanin is alien to the planet. The closest thing to melanin is chlorophyll in plants, the green. That comes from that is a result of the different hues of the actual sunlight, the different frequencies that the sun is putting down, where that stuff just comes out green, because green represents the earth, which is the heart, which is why green is also heart chakra, right? 432 hertz. Oh, I'm sorry, 528 is actually the color green, right? It's the color green and it's the frequency of heart chakra at the same time. So when you even imagine in your mind the color green, you're getting 528 hertz just by seeing it. It's the only color that does that with its frequency. That is the same. So you got to remember, color is just frequency, right? Different colors. The only difference between purple and orange and yellow is frequency. Once you change on that scale of frequency, the hue starts to change. Right? So even when we're talking about the hue man, we're talking about the frequency man. We're talking about the man caught in different frequencies. Right? So let's go on. We're talking about the way we value each other. So with melanin, when you look at something like melanin that is alien to the plant, like I said, the value is off the charts. The last time I checked, melanin was almost $500 a gram. Yes, higher than gold. Almost $500 a gram. Gold is less than $2,000 an ounce. Melanin is almost $500 per gram. But what did I just tell you? It's alien to this planet. You can't get it anywhere. Except where? Except extracting certain things from certain glands within the black melanated body. Keep that in mind. So we don't even consider that, not even the person that has the melanin, but the melanin that the person is walking around with alone is more valuable than the person is being treated, right? This is an inherent value that's higher than most precious metals right now, that's on us. Look up the value of melanin. Melanin, like I said, it's alien to this planet. Closest thing is chlorophyll. This is again showing the relationship between the human and nature, the coexistence, right? The chlorophyll and the melanin. That's the connection. So you got to understand that when there's a people that have this thing called melanin, and remember, we can argue all day the semantics of the word melanin, and okay, white people created the word, the Europeans created the word melanin. Yeah, we can do all that. That's etymology. That's cool. But regardless of what you're calling it, we all know what substance we're referring to. So let's just do that, right? Let's just know what substance we're referring to, regardless of the actual name, because what's in a name? A rose by any other name would smell just as sweet. That's what they say. So you got to understand what that really means. Let's get beyond these names, right? So You can see why when there's a people that have this stuff and there's a people that don't, why it's so important for the people that don't to actually try to systematically control or suppress and oppress the ones that do with trickery. With the value of melanin, we got to understand, like, we got to ask ourselves, why aren't the people that actually have this stuff being treated like they have that value? Why don't we treat each other within the same bloodline or this close within the bloodline like we have this value? Because true enough, we all come from the same bloodline, whether you're European or melanin, except one type of creature is what they call gene recessive. So he is a gene recessive version of the creature that's on the far extreme other end of the spectrum, which is the melanated man, the original melanated man. You see? So these are what we just talking genetics. We're just talking genetics. So even us that's real close on the bloodline don't treat each other like we have this type of intrinsic value within us, man. We just don't. And I don't get it. So I noticed something very strange, man, when I was looking at some of the different products. You look at something like sunblock and even some of the lotions, and you know what you will find in the ingredients? Melanin. Now look, I want you to ask yourself, if melanin is alien to this planet, why is melanin for sale on the internet? Where are they getting the melanin? So I want you to think about that, man. Some of these things lead down some dark roads. When we talking about all the black kids that come up missing each year, just really disappearing and never being found, is very odd. Who wants to take other people's kids? Just think about that. And the way that racism is leaned towards the melanated people, who wants to take black kids? Think about that. So it has to be some nefarious things going on that's like, okay, they disappearing at a high rate every year. So I'm just asking, where does the melanin come from that's in these products? I've seen it with my own eyes right on the back of the package. Look up sunblocks and stuff like that. It contains melanin. 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 It don't even say a code word for melanin. You know how they try to put it in a different chemical name because it's doing something different? No, they just call it melanin. So, when we're talking about the vitamins and minerals and the richness of the melanated body, we are also talking about the richness of a dark soil, right? It's no difference than dirt and soil. The soil is going to have more vitamins and minerals in it, so everything that's involved with it is going to grow at a different rate and it's going to be a little bit stronger genetically. So even when we're talking about the black breast milk, it's going to be more rich in nutrients than other cultures because it's all about the melanin. Everything is about the melanin. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of things that is also made from or made as melanin, because melanin is a polymer. So I will explain that in a little bit. But melanin is something that can come in many forms. It is the most mysterious thing. It's the most mysterious thing that they have seen put together and function. Melanin. So, have you ever heard of the EpiPen? When people have an allergic reaction. Well, guess what epinephrine is? Melanin. It is a form of synthetic melanin. So when somebody has an alert, this is why anybody can take it for any different type of allergic reaction. Have you ever noticed that? Like whether it's peanuts or a different type of allergen, right, that set the person off, they can all take the same epinephrine. So you got to understand, this is something that is universal. What is it? Now you know. And it can assimilate with whatever it goes into. And it's only there to help out. That's what melanin does, because it has a natural function. One of them is seeking down and absorbing and destroying free radicals in the body. right? So epinephrine is melanin. We already know that serotonin is melanin. Melatonin is a form of melanin. There's also something called tryptophan that is also a form of melanin. What is tryptophan? A lot of you have heard of it. It's the chemical that makes you sleepy. It's in turkey also. So people talk about it around Thanksgiving because if you combine it with some type of alcohol like wine or whatever, you will get drowsy. Turkey and wine will make you drowsy because of the tryptophan. That is also a form of melanin, which is also related to the melatonin, which is what they use to help them sleep. You get it? So these are all different forms of melanin being used for different things and being called different names. So there are a lot of foods that's rich in tryptophan that when you find a food that's rich in that, then that means that it will be in direct communication with the melanin of the body, right? So we're talking about stuff like, I'll give you a few of the things on the list that are tryptophan-rich foods. We have spirulina, seaweed, soy nuts, pumpkin seeds, turkey, tofu, peanuts, watermelon seeds. Now you can understand why they made watermelon seedless. You see? Because it was the real watermelon seeds, the black seeds, that were actually containing another form of melanin. Because anything that nature makes in brown, black, or dark, rich hue is a form of melanin. Please don't forget that. Remember, chlorophyll is also melanin, the rich green of the different plants. That's why the vegetarian diet will take you further, especially if you melanated, because it will bring you back closer to source, right? Besides eating the meat and whatnot. Now, I'm not condemning what you do, but I'm just giving you the facts, the knowledge on the spirit energy that comes from whichever way you choose to go. So we have the watermelon seeds, chicken, almonds, and brewer's yeast, something called brewer's yeast. So look these things up, and these are things that are high in tryptophan and can have straight direct contact with the pineal gland that pumps the melanin and everything that's needed to go in different parts of the body and exist and do the different functions. So eat according to what you do. And according to what you are and what you created of. So even what's called weeds that you might find in the yard, you might not realize that back then our ancestors were eating those things to stay strong and to stay alive, because what's called weeds are actually good for melanin, because you got to understand what weeds are. That's why they've been singled out and killed, and there's a whole market like Roundup and all these different things. There's an entire market around the killing of weeds. So you got to think about that. What did weeds do? Because whenever you let weeds grow, they turn into flowers just like any other plant. But the thing is, weeds are a type of plant or a type of creature, right? Just like the melanated man is to the human, the weed is to the plant world, because it thrives and it's very powerful. And the powers that be want to suppress it so that the other flowers and everybody else get a chance to shine, right? Because all the weeds want to do is eat and do their thing and spread out and live free. There's a whole market around killing them. Because in actuality, like I'm telling you, the weeds were used as medicine and things that actually could heal the black people. The dandelions and all that. Look it up. So you gotta understand, man, everything physical is something spiritual as well. So when they killing these weeds, you already know what they saying. In their mind, they killing black people. You gotta understand this stuff. This is this is metaphysics, man. This is not just one thing we talking about. You gotta see this thing multiple ways, right? It's like Jay-Z and them, when they rap, the higher level of rappers, you hear nothing but double entendres. Because everything being said is saying multiple things. At least two things at once. Hence the double and the double entendre. So when we're talking about the food, real quick, I just want to remind that fruit stimulates the body and vegetables stabilize the body. So fruit has that natural sugar, it stimulates the body, and the vegetables stabilize the body, right? So when we're talking about the ways that melanin works with the pineal gland, We're talking about keeping the pineal gland's production of melanin up, therefore keeping the pineal gland from being calcified. Right? And when the pineal gland is not calcified, the individual has more access to the unseen or the spirit realm, where his spirit man actually sits anyway. So that means more connection with a deeper form of self. Right? So this is all what's needed. This is all what happens when you have that good connection with your melanin, and everything is pumping fine with the pineal gland. If you melanated, water directly works with the pineal gland. You have to consume a lot of water, because that is actually a key. That is a very big key with the pineal gland, water consumption. So moving on, and it needs to be mineral water, not distilled water and stuff like that. Remember, distilled water is stripped of its minerals. So what does that mean? That means if you consume distilled water, it will strip you of your minerals to complete itself. See? So you got to know the difference. Don't use that for your body. Use that for electronics or whatever the case may be. Don't use that for your body. You need to be drinking mineral water, water from the earth. Water from the earth. Drink mineral water. So let's talk about how the scientists feel about melanin. They see melanin as a highly complex system. They actually see it as a system. Something that is very rare and mysterious. Right? They study melanin more than anything else. And what I'm telling you is that, how do they study melanin more than anything else? Because they study melanin in multiple forms of itself. They study it in multiple forms. So you might not realize that they're just studying melanin, but yes, it's still melanin, right? So another thing melanin does in the body is it allows the person to heal faster when they have an exorbitant amount of melanin, active melanin. They heal faster when they're healthy. Melanin is both chemical and psychological. I repeat, in the way that melanin functions, it is both chemical, it has a chemical function, and it also has a psychological function. Right? Melanin is also referred to as the black chemical. So when we're talking about one of the chemical functions, we're talking about UV light. We're talking about UVA, UVB, UVC, all the different forms of UV light, right? From the most dangerous to the most mild forms of light. Melanin actually captures all of those forms of light and converts them into energy. That is what melanin does if you don't realize it. Melanin's main function is to convert light into energy. Light into energy. Okay? Remember that. I'm going to show you the connection with the pineal gland in a minute when we're talking about this inner light and the light that's referred to in a lot of these different books and a lot of these different ancient texts, right? So it's all going to make sense to you after this episode. You're going to have a lot of good information. So melanin traps and captures all of that type of UV light energy and converts it into energy. Now, the type of energy that melanin converts to is always energy for the brain. It is your knowledge connection, the melanin. See? Melanin is chemically spread throughout the brain. And what happens is, in the brain and in the body, the melanin is touching and linking different parts of the brain and body together to give them relationship where you might not figure that the melanin is doing that. You see? That's one of the most mysterious things about melanin. It knows where to go and it stays in communication with itself no matter where it spreads out and goes once it is created. Okay? This is what it does in the body and in the brain. We got to remember too, there are many different types of melanin. Some are more rare than others. So when we say everybody has melanin, that is because everybody has a certain color eye, a certain color hair, and things like that, right? This is melanin, okay? But there is also something called uromelanin that is a different form of melanin that is the more rarer alien type of melanin that only certain beings have, period, okay? So this is what we're talking about when we're referring to one of the more rarer types of melanin, okay? So there are many types, and some are just more rare, like I'm telling you. And melanin is also what they call like a polymer, right? So what is a polymer? A polymer is just like plastic, okay? It can become the catalyst to many different functions and possibilities, which means that it can assume the position of many different things. Melanin is a space filler. Melanin can go where something seems to be absent and just become that thing and fit and work within the system, just like melanated people, right? You are just a higher function of what your melanin does. See? You assimilate. And they know that. So they try to put us in positions where we are forced to assimilate. Because genetically, we do that on the melanin level. So this stuff goes deep. You know, the way we're being guided and misguided, this stuff goes deep, man. This stuff goes down to our genetics. So this is why I like to give a little bit more information. So melanin is a polymer. It can become the catalyst to many different functions and possibilities, right? For many different things. Melanin can undergo many different reactions at the same time. It has what they call a quantum function. Now, if you don't know about quantum physics and what quantum even means, I'm going to give you a crash course. I'm going to make you look smart when you talk to somebody about quantum physics. You say, oh, I know what quantum physics is. It's when such and such and such and such. So, you know how we have computers and everything works with ones and zeros, right? So this is what they say, off. Things are either off or on. They're either yes or no. Well, that's binary. Now, in quantum, when we go quantum, we not only have the yes no factor, but now we have 4 spots instead of 2. So where there was 2 in binary and there was just 1 or 0 or yes or no, there are now 4 spots. But now within those 4 spots, not only is there a yes, but there is also a no. So in each spot, it is both yes and no at the same time. This is quantum computing. So this is something that's very hard for the typical mind to even try to perceive. I will give you a quick example of how you can perceive quantum physics. This is the cat in the box theory, right? So there's a cat in a box. Now, we all know that the cat is in the box. We saw the cat get put in the box together. We lock the box away, we come back, we get the box. No one has been around or touched the box. So, we have the box there. We bring the box out, we set the box on the table. Now, the question that gets put into the air is not is there a cat in the box, but is the cat alive? Now, the quantum factor of this question or the answer is that at the particular time that they ask you, is the cat alive? And none of us have seen the cat. None of us have been able to, we have not opened the box to perceive the cat, but we know there's a cat in the box. Now, this is the moment where we understand perception creates reality. Because without the ability to look at the cat, then at that moment, the cat is both dead and alive. That is quantum. That is quantum fluctuation. That's wave format. We have to perceive it to make it into something that is static. So these are wave particles as we can't perceive them. So I'm not going to go too deep into that, but this is some of the stuff Einstein and them was doing. And everybody was basically studying the same thing. Everybody started noticing the same stuff about reality. People called them geniuses and scientists, but were quick to try to separate science from religion so that you could not find different connections, right? When everybody was basically asking the same questions in different formats. But that's what we understand today. So, going back to the melanin, this is the quantum, melanin has that quantum function. It can be a bunch of different things at the same time. The ultimate makeup of melanin is spread throughout the entire body from the skin to the eye color in all different ways to make what is known as melanin. All these different things make what's called melanin. Melanin is kind of a blanket statement, right? Because if you looked at some of the things that existed in other parts of the body, they're going to say something that is not going to be the word melanin, so you're not going to perceive that as melanin, although it was melanin. The only reason it had a different name is because it was in a different place and at the time had a different function. You see? So that's how that happens. And we can't understand that it was melanin the whole time. So with melanin being a polymer, it's all over the body and it's doing all kinds of different things. When it's in the skin, it's your skin color. It's the protector with the UV rays. When it's in the eye, it's delivering information to the brain. It also exists in the inner ear, right? There's a lot of stuff that they're not going to teach you about the body that's very interesting. So moving forward, some things in melanin can even react with metal. So there can also be a metallic reaction or even a magnetic reaction, because remember, you are electricity and magnetism as a creature yourself. Electricity and magnetism is sunlight, which is also what your melanin is composed of, that type of energy. So this is the connection of even you yourself becoming magnetic in some different ways, man. It's just that deep. So I already see now this is going to go into 2 parts on this same episode. So let me, because I like to chop it into an hour a piece. So let me chop it here at the 56 minute mark. And then I'm jumping right in and we're going to continue the rest of this melanin episode. So here we go. I'll be right back. Hold this. All right, we back with the second part of the melanin episode. I'll just take a break after an hour and then just knock it out, 2 pieces. So let's finish that 2-piece. So I think the last thing I was talking about with the melanin was the quantum function that it has in the body, how it can be many things at one time. That is the mysterious thing about melanin. So going from there, we already know there's a lot of different types of melanin, which is the skin color, the eye color, and it pertains to a lot of different parts of the body, right? And in a lot of those parts of the body, it's not even referred to as melanin per se, but it would have a different chemical name. So some things in melanin, like I said, react with metal as well. So you can also give off that magnetic reaction from the melanin, from the electromagnetism. And remember that the melanin chemical is built to react with many different elements chemically to create a new version or a new take on melanin. So basically that just means that wherever you find melanin, it is probably blending in as something else. But its function is always the same function that melanin does, no matter where it is or what it looks like, which is the transference of something into an energy that can be utilized by the brain of the organism. So they've even found traces of stable melanin that were millions of years old. So melanin itself, chemically, is something that is hard to destroy. It can survive almost anywhere because it can assimilate and become almost anything, right? So it is a thing that you also have. This mysterious alien thing that we keep talking about, remember, at the same time, is you. Okay, so it's no different than movies like Venom and stuff like that. Like all these different movies, you don't even understand that it's all about melanin. Batman, The Dark Knight, all that. That's melanin. Dark Knight, that's melanin, melanin. Black, black. Night means black. Doesn't matter which one you think you're referring to. Phonetically, it's the same word. It's the same vibration. So the dark night is the black, black. Or the melanin, melanin. You see, so it's a lot of stuff like that that people don't realize. So I tell you, everything is about melanin. It's all about melanin. And the reason that everything is about melanin, because this is a substance that they don't fully understand. And because they don't fully understand it, they cannot properly create it and use it within themselves. They're trying, because I've already named for you a few of the different chemicals on the market that is just another form of synthesized melanin. So they can't create proper systems to study and manipulate the melanin because they just don't fully understand it. And so they have to always study us. This is what lets you know they always watching what you do, how you react from what they do to the food. I'm showing you how it's all about melanin. How you react from what they do to the medicine. This is how it's about melanin. So even when we're talking about sound, right? So we talked about how melanin transforms light into energy. It also transforms sound into a certain type of brain energy. These are things you didn't know about melanin, right? So melanin also absorbs, and this is what it does within the body. It also absorbs and neutralizes free radicals within the body. So this is why a lot of melanated people don't get sick as often as most European people. I don't remember the last time I was sick. I just don't. It was that long ago, years ago. Melanin is also semiconductive in the body, and it has a sensitivity to the vibrations. And you know, even the vibrations of music and just the vibrations of life, melanin is very sensitive to, and also the Earth's magnetic fields, along with radar energy, light, which I already mentioned, music, for example. Right? So we already know that the different devices like cell phones and technology are really aimed at killing us quicker than anybody else, because it is based on what these types of radiation can do to the body, because it's about melanin. You see, and the melanin itself is more sensitive to that radar frequency, the light frequency, musical frequency. Remember in the movie Venom where they would play the frequencies and then Venom would separate from the man? You see? It's all the same formats. They're just using these things in disguise so that you can't relate the story, but they know it's going to work because they're telling a story that's true, ultimately. So when you're talking about sound and melanin, melanin is very affected by heavy bass. Heavy bass actually stimulates the melanin, right? Higher sounds do not normally stimulate the melanin. Bass is a lower frequency. So to the melanin, bass is looked at as a minimal effort type of frequency, right? A low frequency. So bass would be a minimum effort, meaning that melanin is naturally attracted and connected to lower vibrational things, just like the earth. So we are naturally connected to those types of vibrations. The melanin is. So this is a lot of times why you won't realize why you're so into like the bass culture, the music, the boom bap music, the 808 bass. These are certain frequencies that are used purposely to manipulate the organism taking in the sound. We know that. That's why there's rules and regulations on the frequencies, on the tuning of the instruments. So this is how it affects the melanin, because the melanin is sensitive more so to the lower vibrational frequencies, and you'll get like goosebumps or something like that, right? This is how you'll know that it's affecting you. The body always tells you when something's going on, right? So this is mainly to show that the melanin takes in energy with almost no effort. So even things like the lower vibration of bass, you see how eager the melanin is to connect with it, shows you that from minimal to high effort, the melanin can transform any type of energy and translate it into anything else that the melanin is a part of on the realm, right? So, we know everything is energy anyway. Everything in itself is just energy anyway. Everything has its own resonant frequency. Everything vibrates at its own frequency. That's all that means. So earlier I mentioned that melanin was a polymer, which meant that it can fit the format of many different things. It can become many different things. It can take the form of many different things, and it can have many different functions all at the same time. A polymer is most commonly referred to when we're talking about plastic type materials, right? Something that can take the form of almost anything to form fit certain functions. Plastic is a polymer. Melanin is a polymer. But even more so, an even stronger type of polymer than plastic. Because at its formation state, melanin is also layered. The way it is created and the way it sits with itself, it is layered, right? But it is stronger than the layers of any polymer of plastic or anything like that. So let's keep going with this melanin, man. What does it keep doing? What does it do? Let's see what else it does, right? So, like I said, it absorbs and it neutralizes free radicals in the body. It also hunts down and releases the different toxic substances that you have in the body. This is what melanin does. So what I'm about to show you is why it's important to take care of the pineal gland, which in turn supplies the right type and amounts of melanin throughout the body, which in turn protect the body and function as something that's always conducting and creating and transforming energy in all these different parts of the body. So I'm going to show you how the pineal gland and melanin is also connected to the coronavirus. So remember, this absorbs, neutralizes free radicals and toxic substances in the body. This is why we don't get as sick as much as other people unless we start to treat ourselves like the other cultures. And if we start to eat like them and take the habits that they have, then we will be as susceptible as they are when the different diseases come. That's the difference, right? We'll become subject to the same diseases. Now, I'm going to show you something that melanin is related to that you might not have known as far as the systems of the brain go. Let's go a little deeper. All right, we've all heard of the Parkinson's disease, right? It's a neurodegenerative disorder, right? It is a neurodegenerative disorder, Parkinson's. It is the degeneration of neurons in the brain. It is a disorder. The name says it all. For some reason, the neurons in the brain are malfunctioning. So if we can understand that, we know what can affect the neurons of the brain. And this is how we start to go at the Parkinson's disorder, right? What they call the Parkinson's. So first thing you want to know about about Parkinson's is that The part of the brain that it affects the most and first is the part of the brain that actually is supposed to contain melanin in one of its many forms. You see? So we gotta understand that the melanin is also a nerve conduction facilitator, right? It also, which means that it controls the way the brain operates with the nerves. That is what the melanin does. So having melanin in certain parts of the brain and the body allows the nerve impulses to flow better or to flow smoother. So this is what causes the Parkinson. It's the lack of the melanin in certain parts of the brain. Now, when you go to start looking up the types of people and cultures that get the Parkinson's, it starts to make more sense. Now, look, melanated people can get that stuff too, because guess what? We could also have a calcified pineal gland. But like I said before, that only comes from doing what the other cultures do. So if you're drinking the water and don't understand what the fluoride does, which calcifies the pineal gland, if you don't understand that this is why they have some things that is fluoride and some things that are fluoride free, well, what's the difference? Why offer both if one is better? You see? Because they're leaving it up to you and your own knowledge. It's your choice. But this is why you got to study stuff, man. You got to look around. You got to ask the right questions. So a melanated person could also have a calcified pineal gland if he's been doing a lot of unhealthy things that calcifies the pineal gland. But like I said before, to the European, his pineal gland starts to become calcified around 14, 15 years old. So in his 20s, the normal average, the average Caucasian has reached his sexual peak in his 20s. When the melanated man is just getting there in his 30s. You see? And then carrying on long after that. So this is why I'm telling you that the Viagra is also a form or a synthetic form of the melanin. Now you get the connection. The pineal gland or the pineal gland. If you don't have access to that, you're not going to reap the benefits of it. Now I told you that the pineal gland is extremely sensitive to vibration and frequency. This is why the melanated person dances and the Caucasian normally can't carry a rhythm. Now, I know this is the butt of a lot of jokes, but the real fact of the matter is this. The reason that they can't catch a tune and they have to put those feet on the floor with the numbers and they have to read the books and rehearse is because by not having access to the pineal gland, they do not naturally connect with frequency and rhythm. It just doesn't make the connection, okay? So this is why it's like that. Like I said, you can have people that look like the lighter persuasion, but they have melanin and therefore have these different abilities. It can go either way, okay? This isn't just about color. Please remember that. So, because I tell people, even a Caucasian can be darker complexion, right? Because we're talking about genetics. We're not talking about just how somebody looks when we say melanated or Caucasian and things like that. We're not just talking about what they look like, okay? Because there can be melanated Europeans as well, right? Because that's where we all came from, right? Europe, right? So we're all European if that's the case. But so only in that context though, right? So we always got to know what context we're speaking in. So let's get back to it, right? So having melanin in certain parts of the brain allows the nerve impulses to flow better or smoother in the brain. This would keep a person from coming down with what they call Parkinson's. Parkinson's is just having a disorder in that area where there is a lack of melanin in that part of the brain. So even when a person, and this is interesting as well, even when a person has darker eyes from the melanin, they have a faster, now this is scientifically proven, you can look this up. People with darker eyes have a faster response time. So when you're talking about sports, you're talking about shooting arrows, aiming things, people with darker eyes have a faster response time and are more accurate. So pay attention to stuff like that. This is genetics. This is what it does. This is melanin. Melanin takes in all the different frequencies and energy around you, whether it's light or vibration, and what it does is the melanin, because it's on the skin, right? So it takes this energy in through all different parts of the body and starts the energy conversions. That's what melanin always does. So the main parts of the body, when we're talking about melanin doing the energy conversions, we're talking about the skin, we're talking about the eyes, and we're even talking about the hair. Melanin is prevalent in those areas the most, right? The skin, the eyes, the hair. That is where you're getting the most concentrated forms of melanin. So melanin, like I said, is always functioning to convert energy. This is what it does. I keep repeating that because I want you to remember that a melanated person is always in a state of converting energy. Melanin itself is always in a state of converting energy. Melanin people are always in a state of converting energy. That's why we get bored quick. That's why we're constantly evolving and we don't stay with anything too long. That is in our nature. That is natural to us, okay? So don't think you're strange when you like to keep it moving. That's just natural to us. We can choose to function differently, but this is what's natural. So it's always functioning to convert energy. In the eyes, it functions in converting light to physical impulses to the brain. So a lot of people don't know that the eyes don't actually see. They're only receptors. So what the eyes do is allow for the brain to make sense of shapes, and then the brain adds all the details. Now, between taking in the shapes or allowing the shapes to come through and the brain making sense of it lies the melanin. The melanin is what converts that light energy into what makes the brain recognize things, right? Where you say that's a table, that's a chair, that's a TV. The melanin is allowing the brain to do that, right? In certain spots in the brain. So the melanin in the back of the eye, which gives the melanin a different name. I don't have the actual name of the melanin in the back of the eye right now, but it is named something different as it sits in the back of the eye. The melanin on the skin takes in the heat. You can feel the heat. You can feel the skin getting hotter as you sit in the sun. That is just a process of energy, right? This is why black absorbs heat. It is melanin. It is that void. It is that type of energy that is all colors, so it can absorb all colors on the spectrum, on the color spectrum, or the frequencies. So let's say even the hair and also the ears. I don't want to leave out the inner ear. Okay, melanin is also found in the inner ear section, and what it does is it converts the sound waves, because all I'm doing is making frequencies. But for this to make sense to your brain, this is what your melanin is doing. So melanin is converting sound waves into what's called nerve impulses so that the brain can understand what's happening and make sense of what's happening. You see? So even with the brain itself, where the main places where the melanin is found is where the brain is mainly responsible for the body's movements and responses. That's normally where the melanin is held together in the brain area. So this stuff gets deep, man, with what the melanin is doing. It's all over the place, right? So you got to understand that with this whole race thing and all this racism, this is what it's about, guys. It's not about people being different colors. It ain't that shallow. People that are extremely ignorant and are quote unquote racist to that degree don't even understand what racism is, when it was only supposed to be recognizing the differences, the race-isms, right? So the concrete differences. But we can't even do that with a level head, and it turns into something where everybody's feelings are involved. When I felt like if we could take this all the way back to genetics, maybe we can bypass some of these feelings. Keep it scientific. So, in my opinion, this is why, the white or the European culture feels so genetically inferior to melanated people, therefore making them angry against the melanated people. And no matter what generation of melanated people you are, there's going to be generations of them somewhere that do not care for you and don't think you deserve what you have. That's the real thing. So remember that when you have this melanin, you actually genetically, and you can't dispute this, because when you understand the functions of it in the body, how can you go against what it is actually always doing? So when you have this mysterious melanin, you actually also have the ability and the possibility to be anything, or to be extraordinary, which means extraordinary, not just ordinary, right? This gives you the ability to be extra. And this is why the melanated peoples function on a higher psychological and on a higher physical level more often than not, right? And I say, well, how come there's never been a white Jordan or a different culture, quote unquote, culture Jordan? Why is it that a lot of the flying through the air and the acrobats and stuff like that are really left to a specific culture? Do I have to say which one? There's a reason for that. Most of it is genetics. Some of it is hard work, but for what? All you're doing is working to unlock what you can already do. See? You're not gaining anything when you do that stuff. We're unlocking what we can already do. We're unclouding ourselves. So, let's go a little deeper with the melanin. Have you ever heard of the term the black dot, or black dot seed? You know, these are also terms referring to, like, let's say the Holy Grail. If you heard of that, that is also the black dot seed. What I'm going to give you is a few things that are melanin related by name and by nature, right? And please remember that that is what name means. Name comes from nature. That's what it means. So your name is also your nature. Okay? So let's take a few things. We're going to get a little bit into religion and stuff, still dealing with melanin. Bethlehem. If you understand, these aren't all real places. A lot of these are just references to things that are higher, that take higher levels of understanding. So I'm not going to get into the story of each of these things, but I will give the simple definitions. Bethlehem. Bethlehem. Beth means house. Ham means ham or cam or kim or black or melanin. So Bethlehem means the black house or the melanin house. Okay? Bethlehem. All right? Let's see. I just only want to do things concerning melanin and black code. Homo, which is how, they call us Homo sapien. Homo is Latin for the word chem. CHEM, when I'm saying chem. Also cam, CHAM, right? Chem as in chemistry, cam. These are all the same words. Chem means black, like Kemet, the black land, okay? So what I'm showing you is that all these things are always talking about melanin. Homo sapien. Homo is Latin for the word cam, or black. So homo means black. Sapien means original people. So Homo sapien is black original people. You see that? Human or who-man or God-man, from the God who, the who-man or the Hue-man, H-U-E, the color man. Right? Let's get into some wordplay. Soot. Soot means black, which is also, this is where you get the funeral ritual where you wear the black suit, because soot is soot, black. So it is the black. It is the melanin as a part of the homegoing ritual, okay? Soot means black. Soot comes from the word soot. Soot Nessie, the black and golden one, right? Gold is the sun or the son of God. Black and gold, Soot Nessie. I'm just running through this quick, but you can always look this stuff up to understand it. Okay? Another interesting thing, going back to a little bit of the quantum physics and the physics, is in 1983, the science of quantum physics did also prove that the melanated man is the god of the planet, and this is how they refer to it, as the melanated man being the god of the planet. Now, why did they say that, you ask? Because In 1983, they had a magazine called The Mind Brain Report, and you can look this up. In 1983, the Mind Brain Report says, based on melanin, they made the connection of the black man to the black hole in space. It is created from the same energy. The melanin that the black man possesses and the black hole in space is created with the same energy. Let's go. Now we're getting deeper. Okay? This is what a lot of people don't realize. Now let's get into some chaos theory and some chaos. Remember, we're talking about space. We're talking about the black hole. We're talking about that being the same thing that melanin is. What is chaos? Chaos is total blackness, which they call nothingness, which is actually everythingness, which is unlimited potential, limitless possibility. Even in the Bible, where it tells you in the beginning, what do they tell you existed first? The void. So you got to understand these codes and what this stuff is. Everything comes from chaos or blackness or darkness. Even when you're trying to think of a thought and remember something, the first thing you normally do is close your eyes so that you can go inside into the void and pull out and retrieve the answer, right? So this is a natural thing that we do without even considering where it is we're trying to go to get these actual answers. You see? So when we understand things like chemistry, science, and mathematics, these are all studies of blackness or melanin. Chemistry is the study of chemicals and melanin. Chem. This is melanin. This is the study of certain substances and melanin. Biology is the study of chemicals and melanin. Alchemy is the study of the workings of the inner body and the study of melanin. That is the true form of alchemy. Not turning lead into gold, but in the true form of lead being your heavier thoughts, being turned into your higher mind state. Lead to gold, right? A lead gut. Right? Bringing things up from the bowels or the depths and transmuting them into a type of energy that you could actually use to progress, to do something, to grow, right? So when we're talking about these different words, that's what I'm telling you is that these are just codes. So remember the cam, even when you're talking about Knights of the Round Table, Camelot, I told you Nights only means black, nighttime. Melanin, black time. You got to understand what this stuff is. This is soot. Remember back in the day when Osiris used to fight with Set, and every day Set would win every night, and every morning Set would be slayed. Well, who was Set? Set wasn't a person, it was an energy. This is the same knowledge of sunset. And if you don't understand that Set was the nighttime or the darkness, this is when you had people that worshipped the nighttime or the darkness or the void or the untapped potential in which light comes from. See, you cannot have light without darkness, right? So the melanin is a gift. And when you're talking about Set, and the ones who started to worship that ideology, then you're talking about worshipers of Set or Soot, which I told you Soot meant blackness or night or nature. So Soot, or which was later called the religion of Satan. See? Satan worship, which in English translation became Satan, which became pagan. Because remember, who are the pagans? By definition, a pagan is a person that does not believe in religion, but acknowledges nature as the source. That's a pagan. So they worship Satan or Satan or Soot or melanin. So you got to know what you're talking about before you take on these religions and start making up Satans and devils. You are cursing your own cosmic reflection, brother, and had no idea that it is just the dark one, right? Ooh, everybody gets scared. It's black. Come on, man. So it's a lot of stuff they don't let you know about Satan or Satan worship. And I used to tell people, man, you got to understand, one man's God is another man's devil. And that's something that they always going to try to put on us. You know, back then, when you talked about these different diseases and melanated people, you talk about stuff like sickle cell and things like that the melanated people have. Just to give you an example of how they flipped everything with the melanin, sickle cell was actually an attribute and not a disease. It's something that fought malaria and cancer and AIDS. So the government started studying real hard on sickle cell, melanin, AIDS, and all that back in the day in the 80s and 90s. You got to understand the proclivity of the white man. When you start to understand all the things that he's so concerned and involved in, then you start to see his plot and the plan. Why are you so worried about disease and black and melanin? Why are you so concerned with it? Why are you making so many synthetic forms of something that you don't have? Because you butthurt and you don't want to show it. But you're quietly aggressive, right? Passive aggressive, the passive aggressive creature. So we start talking about the theology of melanin itself. We start talking about being able to recognize it in many other forms. And like I said, with the movie Venom, I've mentioned many times because it's a great example of the melanin taking over the European and how he can't handle the energy of the dark matter that comes from space. You see? The black dot. Remember, what they call the black dot is the circle with the dot in the middle. That is also the symbol for the sun on this realm. Just like the symbol for Earth is the circle with the cross in it. The symbol for the sun is actually the circle with the black dot. Because remember, we are children of the sun. You see how all these things connect. So when they refer to the black dot, they're talking about melanin, right? They're talking about the dark side, dark matter, negative energy, the black hole. This is us. Chemistry, chem, black, chemistry, the study of blackness. Kemet, the black land. This is all about the pineal gland, what it produces, and the types of melanin that some people come with from your cosmic bloodline or your cosmic genetics. They can't interrupt these bloodlines. They can only try to destroy them where they are now, through you. So that hopefully they destroy you enough as you keep creating, your bloodline starts to die off and weaken. Right? That's what the virus and these things are about. Because like I told you, melanin already attacks the free radicals of the body. If you understood that all you need to do is stop taking their medicine and drink water, you will be functioning on a high rate. You will be functioning at a high level where the last thing you'll be worrying about is a virus. Especially when you got trillions of virus and bacteria living inside you, that actually them staying alive means you staying alive. So you killing all the virus and bacteria in you, melanated person, and around you, melanated person, is actually detrimental to you, melanated person. Because you need these things and you adapted to this stuff a long time ago. UV light kills bacteria and virus. What is the biggest UV light on the planet? The sun. Now, if the UV light kills bacteria and virus, and the sun kills such and such, what does that tell you? Who's the bacteria and virus of the body of Earth? Look, I'm not saying nobody better than anybody. I'm just stating the facts of what is and why. So that's why a lot of times when a white person or a Caucasian person says they have knowledge or that they are waking up, I feel like it's just an acknowledgement maybe of the higher knowledge, but not actually a possession of said knowledge itself, because a white person cannot be awakened. They can only become aware. You see? Because without access to the pineal gland, the knowledge can only be information. It cannot be a real connection. Melanin itself is an organizing unit of consciousness. So to have that is an organizing unit of consciousness. So to have that is extremely valuable, and to not have it is extremely detrimental. This is why I say we cannot see the European as an equal. We have to see him as something that is recessive. Why is that? It is not to rank us, but it is to acknowledge that, look, man, you got something missing, and I think you need to acknowledge that within yourself rather than be upset with somebody that has the thing that you don't have. Why don't you become all right with what you do have? You see? That is one of the best reasons to acknowledge this kind of stuff. So the melanin is an organizing unit of consciousness. I want to say that one more time because it is produced in the pineal gland. And there has been a war on melanin. There's been a war on melanin for a very long time. And to attack the melanin, you have to attack the pineal gland. And you have to attack the central nervous system. What attacks the central nervous system faster than anything in the brain is sugar. Now, this is why they also say that with the coronavirus, people that are most susceptible are people with type 2 diabetes and people with brain issues, right? So this is saying, if you didn't catch that code, you got to understand that the sugar and the insulin malfunctions in the body affect the brain, and they affect the central nervous system. Sugar actually shuts down the central nervous system. Back in the day, sugar was considered a poison in this country. Now it is in everything, okay? So when they tell you they're giving you pure cane sugar, you got to realize that for a long time, the sugar canes have been genetically modified. So even though you think you're getting something pure, you are getting still a GMO, which is they still are attacking your central nervous system with something genetically modified, which will help to calcify and shut down or malfunction the pineal or the pineal gland. Now you can't even get an erection, and you can't think. Both, right? A lot of times we don't know the misfunctions of the body and what they're based on. So you got to study yourself. GMO is the main agent to attack the central nervous system, along with the sugar that has been made from, like I said, the genetically modified sugar cane, right? So we know from everything that we've said so far that food, playing with the genetics of food, right? Food is one of the things that can permeate the senses. So they have to play with the genetics of things that can permeate the senses. So food is one of them, is what I'm saying. Sound is another one. They can use certain frequencies with sound to shatter the blood crystals. Like with action scenes in movies and different things where they play different tones that cause you to jump along with the action and shatter some of your blood crystals and give you that inner vibration that even makes your skin bump up, and you call it goosebumps. You seeing a physical low vibration. So they know how to mess with you to the point to where it's catastrophic to your mind. And the quickest way to get to that point is by breaking you down genetically, altering the food, altering things that permeate the senses all around you at all times. And if we've learned anything from melanin, that is what melanin does. It operates with the things that permeate the senses. And it transforms all that into energy that the body takes into the brain to make sense of. So this is a very complicated thing, but it's not. Once you read through it or listen through it a few times and research it, you see the machine and how it functions, and I'm referring to you as that machine. So yeah, melanin is a light code decoder. It does it through the skin, through the eyes, through the ears, and through everything that the melanin has, the pineal gland included, the third eye, which comes through the middle of the forehead, which I told you before if I didn't finish. The pineal gland is made of the same tissues that the eye is made from, the physical eyes. And it is accessible through the middle of the forehead between the brows. Sometimes if you even touch the spot between the eyebrows, it feels a little tender because that is how you get to the pineal gland, straight through there. Now, why is it tender? Because where it connects to the pineal gland that is deep in the middle of the brain, where it sits, is very sensitive to light because the pineal gland itself can emit light. It is bioluminescent. What is that? Just like things that are deep in the darkness of the ocean, nature purposely makes them to where they can glow, to where they are lit up. That is bioluminescence. Nature knows when to put light and where to put it. Your pineal gland is one of those things. So in the Bible, where they talk about two eyes become one and the whole body being filled with light, now maybe you can break that code down and be a little bit more educated on some of those scriptures or scripts in the greatest story. Right? So the pineal gland itself can sense, is also very, what it does the most for you without you knowing is be your inner clock. When people say my inner clock woke me up, that's the pineal gland. It knows when it's morning time. It can feel the sunlight through the forehead. So it wakes the being up. You see? It also tells you when you're sleepy and you need to go to bed. It starts to hit you with the melatonin. It says, man, you should be in bed. In the morning, it hits you with the serotonin and say you should get up. That's another thing. Things like the coffee bean. Coffee is also a form of melanin. Natural coffee is a form of melanin. Why do you think Caucasians and Europeans go so crazy about coffee and it became such a big industry that it's one on every corner? And if you notice, a European or a white person sometimes will get pissed off if they can't get their coffee. Now, I drink coffee, but I could take it or leave it. You see, I use it because I know how to connect it to my melanin and get the most out of it. But I don't put sugar and stuff like that in my coffee either. And I know that a lot of people, Europeans and Caucasians and whatnot, are getting their melanin fixed through the coffee. You see? And they need that shot of melanin every day. They hooked on it. It's a different type of energy. Why you think certain things from nature, once consumed into the body, and once they assimilate with the body, they give levels of energy? That's alchemy. How could you consume a bean or an apple and then be energized by it less than an hour later? That's what melanin does. It transforms things into a level of energy that can be utilized. And you get the alert through the brain like, hey, you just came up on some energy. You good. Imagine doing something and look how you feel. So melanin is doing a lot, and you have to do a lot to serve your pineal gland and keep the melanin flowing. Stay away from the calcium. You don't need to take calcium supplements. Get your butt in the sunlight. Get that vitamin D. You'll be right with the calcium. Take B complex. Right? That also assists in the melanin production, and it also assists in how things, how the melanin transforms food and things you take in into energy. The B complex assists in that. Right? So let's see. We talked about the melanin being a light code decoder. It absorbs light. It breaks it down, right? The sun is the main source for strengthening of the being that has melanin. So we look at like the analogy of the Superman, right? And we see that whenever Superman was weak, even though he was a white man, where did he have to go to power up? Close to the sun, right? So let's understand who the Superman really is, okay? And we know that the sun is just electromagnetic energy, giving you all these different spectrums of the sunlight. And like we said, those are the UV rays. We already know UV kills parasites, kills germs. They got the things where you can put your phone in the blue light, everything like that, because we know what that does, right? Along with the white blood cells that's always attacking the body, causing inflammation and different types of diseases and mucus and all kind of stuff. And while I'm on the thought of that, mucus as a segue, I want to mention real quick, before I hit this last part, I want to mention real quick something about as far as the virus and your alkaline levels. I was talking to a friend of mine earlier about some information. He's a real good friend of mine. He's a real smart guy. He likes to keep his people informed. And I saw something that he sent me, and I just wanted to hit him up and so we could converse a little further about the alkaline levels of the human body and just talking about getting rid of the coronavirus and things like that. Now, I just wanted to help him by simplifying his message and letting him relate to his people and everybody else that it is the mucus that can cause only any disease, right? It is only the mucus, right? So when we're talking about acidity levels, we still just talking about the mucus levels as well. So we can address it that way, and that will clear everything, right? If we address the mucus, we have nothing else to address, is what I'm saying. So when we're talking about the alkalinity levels of the body, we're talking about the human body being in that range where you want to stay right around 7.8, okay? There is a lot of waters and things that are 12, 10, different high levels of alkaline, along with a lot of foods as well. But what you really have to realize is this. A lot of those charts and things that get put out about alkaline levels and rising your body level up to certain amounts is not for you. I repeat, when you're dealing with a lot of these medical systems, the melanated person's chart is not going to be the same as the European model. Okay? Europeans, for example, have a higher sulfur content in their body. That is why they react to different things, different ways, the different smells that we all have from each other, and all kind of stuff like that is because of the different levels of chemicals that we possess in the body. So it's just good to acknowledge these things. We're not being racist. I mean, I just hate always feeling like that because of how most people think, okay? I know my audience ain't really like that, but I feel the need to keep having to reiterate that for maybe like first-time listeners or whoever that's hearing me speak like this and might say, yo, he can't have any white friends. When really a lot of my close friends are white, and they love when I talk like this because it educates them as well, because they are also not educated on themselves. So it's not just the melanated people that aren't educated on themselves, but all cultures have people that are not educated on themselves, right? So with the alkaline level, when you have these things that are very high alkaline, it's good to consume those only if other things you are consuming are in balance with that, and also if you are deficient in alkaline and you are trying to get to a level place. So we're all going to have different jump off points when it comes to alkaline, so don't just go by any cookie cutter chart. Always try to be aware of your own alkalinity level. If you're a type of person that has acid reflux and all that, then you know that you are very acidic, and you know that baking soda and things like that will automatically act as a base and try to ease your alkaline levels, right? Even something like lemon juice that seems to be high in acid but is actually high alkaline is the absolute opposite of what it seems to be. It seems to be acidic, but it is a very much needed base. So I just want to mention that. So keep your body, because changing the degrees of the alkaline in the body too drastically either direction can kill the human. So I just want to let that be known. Remember, it's a lot of things that exist in us that live at certain alkaline levels that need to stay alive. Just like you perceive that you need to stay alive. Remember, your cells are trillions of you within you. So just wrap your mind around that. Think about that for a while. The version you think you are, there's billions of you, and they're all inside of you, trying to be you as well. So be well and be whole. And this is what I also mean by wholeness. This is the knowledge of considering the wholeness of self and not just yourself in pieces and parts, and dealing with yourself in pieces and parts. Deal with yourself as a whole would be my advice. So let me see. I want to wrap this up. We got a little bit more to hit. Let's see if we can knock it out. Okay, we did a little bit of wordplay. Let's go. I'm going to run through this rather quickly. We got Horus. This is going to go into a little bit of religion. I'm going to show you connection. Horus, which is Heru, which is also Jesus, which is also Satan or Satan or Sut, which is also Lucifer, which is also the pineal gland. These things are all metaphoric. Don't get caught up and triggered by gods and demons. It's not what you think. Okay? Lucifer is the light bringer. He is the pineal gland. Okay? He is the son of the morning. Just like they said Jesus was the bright morning star. So let's understand what we're talking about, because they already told you that the sun was a star. So let's not act ignorant with the knowledge. Let's accept what we already realize, right? So Satan or Satan is what everybody's afraid of. And if you're melanated, then that is your cosmic reflection. Stop making demons and devils out of things you don't understand. The Bible is always based on morality or moralism, good versus evil, right? This existence that we are in now was never meant to be a moral existence. Satan or Satan is actually the cosmic reflection of what they call God. You see, these are two ends of one spectrum of light and darkness. You see, this is why Set was the first Satan or devil. Set became Satan or Satan. Set was only the sun going down and becoming darkness. Okay, let's get out of the darkness, people. Okay, so Satan, the prince of darkness, now you get what that means, right? Or the prince of melanin. This is why Lucifer is the light bringer, once again, the pineal gland, okay? So, moving on. I'm giving you some Bible code with this at this point. We're going to end this out with a bunch of Bible code related to melanin and the body. The tree of life, the serpent and the tree of life is Kundalini, okay? So when we're talking about the snake, we're talking about the Kundalini energy rising up through the tree of life, which is the spine and the central nervous system, okay? Now, darkness. Let's talk about movies. Let's talk about Star Wars. Darth Vader, Darth, which is the name of one of our ancestors, Darth, Daath, which means dark or darkness, which is where they get Darth, which is where they had Darth Vader. Okay? Which is why he put on the black suit and even had a black man as his voice. So you got to get the codes on this stuff. Darth Vader. All right? The Jedi warrior. Jet black. The jet black warrior. The jet black eye of the warrior. Okay? The Jedi. Okay? The power of the dark side, which is the power of melanin. This is how you get light from darkness. Right? The side of light and the side of darkness. It is the same thing. It is an illusion. This is why Luke was the Skywalker. This is the rise of the Kundalini manifested. He is now the Skywalker. He has risen, okay? He has risen. This is light from darkness. This is Luke. Who was his father? Darth Vader. I'm just giving you a little bit of connection. Let's have some fun with it. Let's keep going. Set or Soot, which means black. Right? This represents the regenerative process and also represents melanin, the blackness. When you get knocked out, you get knocked into that blackness before you come back around, right? So when you go to sleep, you close your eyes and go into that void and you come back around. So you start to understand that melanin itself represents the regenerative process. It is something that is always in fluctuation and it is always functioning as some type of energy transformation, okay? Let's talk about the religion that worships Set, just to go a little deeper since we still got a couple minutes. These were the Typhonians. Their religion, or the Typhonian religion, was also called the Set religion, is what became the worship of Satan or Satan or Tatan or the Titans. So now this is what became the Titans, which means the ones who fell. This is us they are referring to, people. You remember the Titans? Get it? All right, moving on. Greek mythology was originally black. The Odyssey, the Iliad, Homer, both black originally. These are stories from your ancestors in ancient Kemet that have been moved over to a different culture because that's where they got them from. Before Hebrew was a religion, it was an advanced learning system. So before Hebrew made your Bibles and stuff like that, it was just an advanced learning system. Let's go. Let's see. I want to skip on. Let's see. Let's talk about Solomon. He was also a code in the Bible. Sol, and On. These are three different names for melanin or light. So, Sol, S-O-L, means sun or energy. Ohm means sun or O-H-M, which is the energy that flows through the systems of electronics, the energy flow, the amount of energy. And On, which is also another language name for sun. So this is why you turn the light switch on when you come in the house. Sol, and On, okay? This means melanin, the black body, the temple of Solomon, the black temple. I know I'm going fast, just bear with me. I only got like another minute. This might cut out, but y'all know what I'm trying to do for you. I'm trying to end it on a note. All right, this is where we get the temple of Solomon, which is the black temple. Isaiah 45:3. I will give you the treasures of darkness. This is also a reference to melanin. Okay? So, what I'm giving you is as much melanin as I can. I think I'm going to stop it right there. And I think that other things I talk about will connect to the melanin once again. But look, man, this has been the Melanin episode. I got less than a minute. I appreciate return listeners, first-time listeners. Come back. Guys, I'm going to be hitting you with one topic at a time. This was all melanin. This is 2 hours of melanin knowledge. Take this stuff in and share it, right? Pass this along, okay? If you got ideas and things you want me to hit next, let me know. I got religion coming up. I got frequency and vibration coming up. And I'm going to hit you with the specific topics. I'm going to do etymology. I got a bunch coming up. So, look, it's been my pleasure laying this information down. Thanks for coming back. I need some water. I've been talking for a while now. And this has been my 3 cents once again, man. I'll have more information in the description. And until next time, family, wholeness, wholeness, wholeness.